Morning everybody, Jenna here. I thought that I should break radio silence. I feel pushed by spirit to come out of the shadows, as they put it, and to step back into the light and make an appearance. I've been very quiet for quite some time, and I suppose what I need to do is talk about it and use my voice. So my voice has always been, well, not always, has been an issue for quite some time for me. I have trauma around my voice, and speaking aloud has been a problem for me. So some of you might know that when I was about 17, I was diagnosed with ME, also known as chronic fatigue syndrome. And I was very, very ill for about 8 years. And at points I couldn't talk and I couldn't eat, I couldn't walk, all of those things. And one of the lasting side effects of being ill was that my cognitive functions were affected by it. And most notably my ability to recall words. So sometimes I feel quite conscious of the fact that I'll have a conversation and I really struggle to remember words, even really basic words, and it makes me really self-conscious. So I have a trauma around speaking, not writing. I love writing because it allows my brain a lot more time just to function and to process and to get things down that make sense. But throughout the past couple of years, and more notably over the past 6 months, I've realised that this trauma around my throat isn't all about my illness. It goes a lot deeper than that, and it's something I'm working on. And actually I noticed that one of my shadows actually is to write a post rather than to make a video, because I know that it's easier for me. It's a comfort zone, whereas to make a video, it means me stepping right out of my comfort zone. I don't necessarily feel comfortable in front of the camera. I don't necessarily feel comfortable always when I'm speaking with other people. But I know that to heal that shadow and that trauma, I have to work through it and I have to face it and confront it, and that's what I'm doing. So, as Spirit put it, breaking radio silence, that's what I'm doing today. Because I feel that it's the time, I suppose, it's the time to clarify where I've been and what I've been doing. To also maybe talk a little bit about spirituality and how for me it's evolved so much. But I don't want this to be a really long video, so I'm just gonna sort of do a brief sort of summary overview. I think most notably actually what I wanted to say was spirituality and what we think of as spiritual and spiritual experience is really what I want to talk about. So I have been quite absent from social media, from all of my platforms for the past couple of years really. So some of you know that I've had a baby. She's actually 2 next month, and she has taken my focus quite rightly, because she needs my attention. She's small and she needs her mother. But I also had a very difficult pregnancy. I have a condition which makes my pregnancies very complicated, and I spent a lot of time in hospital. So all of my focus became very earthbound, very of the human level for the past couple of years in terms of my youngest child. but also my eldest child. So to kind of backtrack slightly, somebody tagged me in a video that I'd made for the solstice in 2021, and I didn't watch the whole video, but I caught a glimpse of myself, and it made me feel quite sad, because the woman that I was then is not the woman that I am now. I've done a lot of crying and grieving over the past 3 years. I've changed dramatically from the person that I was when I seemingly emerged out of nowhere, and came through into this spiritual community and was made visible to people. My eldest child has a lot of mental health problems, something which I've spoken briefly about. And these mental health problems became incredibly severe. My eldest child took an overdose and was a prolific self-harmer, has really severe social anxiety, wouldn't go to school, was bullied at school, and in general just found life incredibly difficult. So our focus as a family became my eldest child and our baby. Our home life, our earthly life became our focus. And I think I want to talk about this in terms of spirituality, because there is such an emphasis on spiritual practice. And what is your spiritual practice? You know, how many times a day do you meditate? How many workshops are you attending? You know, what are you doing to grow yourself? What is your focus? Are you being positive? Are you doing your affirmations? Are you manifesting? Are you of a high frequency? Well, I just wanted to say that your life is your spiritual practice. How you engage with your everyday life and how you approach your troubles is your spiritual practice. So if you find yourself in a difficult situation, like I know many people are, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, I haven't done yoga, which I haven't in over a week, which I really enjoy and I need for my physical strength. If you haven't meditated in a few days, or you found yourself slipping into a negative thought pattern because you're so tired, or you know, you've got a ton of different stresses all happening at once and you feel a bit down about it, do you know what? That's human and that's okay. I think that's my point. You are having a human experience and your life will be up and down like a yo-yo, and it's not all going to be highs. It's not all going to be meditation. It's not all going to be retreats. It's not all going to be attending the latest workshop where your vibration is super high and through the roof, because that's just not, it's just not human. And we are here for a human experience. And ultimately, how you deal with your troubles and how you deal with the difficult times is the spiritual practice. And it's what you take from those situations, and it's how you grow from them, which is the ultimate spiritual practice. It's not something that you set aside time each day for or each week for. It's something that is ongoing. And it doesn't stop. It's an everyday thing. And it can be exhausting, if we're going to be honest. Being in a human body is exhausting sometimes. And that's just normal. It's just normal. We're not going to, well, I'm not going to deny my humanness and make myself feel less of because I'm not always super happy or I'm not always super high vibration. Because we as a family have dealt with a lot over the past 3 years, and it has been crushing and it has been devastating, and it has been full of trauma that we have all been part of as a family. Not one of us has been exempt from the pain. And I and we are just one example of the kinds of traumas that everyone is going through. You know, your trauma will look different to my trauma, but it's still trauma, and it needs to be looked at, it needs to be processed, and it is valid. How you're feeling is valid. Okay, I mean, we can look at the greater picture and look at all of the big traumas, the big collective traumas going on in the world right now. But it all starts with the small traumas that are going on within us, which, you know, we all have them. No one is exempt from trauma. It's looking at all of those behaviours, and I think this is what has been big for me. I've had lots of mirrors held to me over the past 3 years, lots of them, and they have been unavoidable, and there has been no escape. It's just been a house of mirrors. A house of mirrors that have meant confronting so many shadow aspects of myself. But, you know, it's been difficult, but at the same time, it's been an accelerative process where I've moved through a lot. But at the same time, you move through one thing and then you realize actually there are many more things. There are many more things. There are always things that will confront you that actually you thought you'd dealt with or you thought you'd healed, but there's another aspect of it, because trauma is multifaceted. We have many traumas, and each of these traumas is multifaceted. So, you know, we'll deal with one aspect and then we'll integrate, and then we'll move on with our lives, and then it'll be shown to us from a different perspective, and we'll think, oh, okay, that needs to be looked at now. And that's what we've been doing as a family. But I do feel that our young people are moving through a dark night of the soul, and I've really refrained from talking about it because I don't want there to be a real negative vibe that comes with talking about it, because it's difficult to hear that our young people are going to experience mental health crises, but it's happening, and it's happening all around us. My child goes to, well, it's actually just, well, tomorrow finishes their final year 11 exam. They turn 16 in August. And the school that they went to is a special school and deals, or assists, I should say, children who have mental health problems or are on the autism spectrum, or they just cannot get on with mainstream schools. And my child has autism, which is one of the reasons why they found it so difficult to integrate within a mainstream school, to maintain relationships, to understand their identity. But anyway, I'm digressing slightly. The children, this big wave of dark night is happening already for our young people, because in my opinion, in my understanding, they are processing a lot of the junk that needs to be tidied up, needs to be finished. A lot of the collective trauma, a lot of the ancestral trauma, genetic trauma, it's all sort of coming up to the fore. And this isn't about fault, it's not about blame, it's just about this is what's happening. And all we can really do, all we've asked to do, all we're here to do is to grow, for our souls to evolve. That's as I understand, the reason we come here to this really difficult school earth is to grow. and our children are no exception. And if we remove the emotion that's attached to our children, they are souls just like we are souls, and they've come here to do the same thing. And I think what we can best do as adults and as parents and as caregivers, as aunties, as uncles, as grandparents, is to really work on ourselves and our traumas and assist our children to do the same. Because if we don't work on our traumas and our behavioural patterns, then all that happens is it's passed down, and it comes out in the way that we behave towards other people, in the way that we behave towards our children. And then our norm becomes their norm, and our inability to respond to a situation becomes their inability to respond in a functional, positive way. And I think it's become so clear to me when I've been to my child's school and I've looked around, and there's so many children who are suffering. And this isn't just, they don't want to go into school, or they find being around other people difficult. This is kids who are cutting themselves. This is kids who are taking overdoses. These kids are struggling, and it's our responsibility to lead the way. And you know what? Leading the way isn't always, I want to say cupcakes and rainbows, but it isn't. It's not always super happy and super excitable. It is the harsh reality of existence on this planet, and being okay with those feelings and being okay with those emotions and working through them and holding someone's hand when they need to hold your hand. And then realizing that there is a way through that. And when you come through that, you are so much lighter. And all of those workshops and the super high vibrational stuff and the meditation and the yoga and everything else, that all just slots right in. Because it's like you clear out all the junk, and then all of those other things can fit right in, and it's a good fit, and it's a lasting fit. It's filling you up because there's more space there. You cannot separate your human